everyone. Today I'm going to talk about God's house. Saul, the first king of Israel, was killed in the battle against the Philistines, and David was chosen as his successor. So I want to start from a transition. I want to talk about what happens when you want to peacefully transition from one person to another person. But that was not so peaceful. Transition from Saul to David was not so peaceful. Because Saul tried to kill David multiple times, but he wasn't successful. And David had a chance to kill Saul few times, but he didn't. He could destroy Saul, but he didn't. He chose not to destroy Saul. So today, a story is about destruction, a story of building, and all that. Just I wanted to give you a gist of what I'm going to talk today. One of David's first acts as king was the conquest of Jerusalem. Saul was the first king over Israel because people asked for it. And God said, you asked for it. Because you asked for it, I give you a king that gives the people heavy burden. Because you asked for it, God give you someone who slave the people. But people didn't listen. They shouted louder and louder, we need a king. We want a king like anybody else. So God told Samuel, appoint someone over them, to supervise over them. Because they asked for it. Saul was the first king of Israel. But he wasn't good enough. And then he replaced by David. The first act of David after being a king was conquest of Jerusalem. He conquered Jerusalem and he put Jerusalem as the capital of the Israel. He named the city that was natural. He named after himself, City of David. Like today, everybody conquer a building. They manage to get some people together and have a church. They name after themselves. کلیسای کشیش فلانی, کلیسای بهمانی. I don't care what they put on the sign, but they conquer the people. They want to control the congregation, and people outside call them, and they call rightly. They want to divert attention from themselves to the name, but actually the church is after their own self. They say me, 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 me. And people rightly call the church کلیسای کشیش فلانی، کلیسای کشیش فلانی. Actually, it is their church. It's not Church of God. It is their church. That's their property registered in their name, and it's their church, not Church of God. Okay, David named the city of David, and declared it the capital of his kingdom. The city is situated at the center of the three great territorial blocks that were allotted to the 12 tribes of Israel, and its border on the territory of the tribe of Benjamin, to which King Saul had belonged, and on that of Judah, king of David's tribe. So there was a city. David conquered the city and named the city of David. And then David built an altar on the summit of Mount Moriah. Because David wanted to worship the true God, David built an altar. But for various reasons, refrained from building the temple. God prevent David from building a house of God. David couldn't build house of God. As I explained later, we don't have any church of Iranian. They wanted to build, but God told them, because you fight every time, you fight every day with each other and with others, you cannot have an Iranian church for yourself. God told them, God himself told them, you cannot have church for yourself. You cannot build a church for yourself, because you always fight with each other and with others as well, like David. They couldn't have a church, and still there is no Iranian church for themselves, like David. But David could build an altar. But as I said before, for multiple reasons, they couldn't build a temple. They couldn't build a church for themselves. With ritual worship concentrated in Jerusalem, the city's population was swelling enormously at 6 times each year. They performed ritual as a worship, and people gather to that city, and city was bigger and bigger and bigger. هر سال شهر داوود که پایتخت بود پرتر میشد، مثل اینکه بیایم اتاوا رو که پایتخت کاناداست هر سال بیشتر پر کنیم. بعد همونجوری که بهتون گفتم هیچ وقت نتونستن نه تنها توی پایتخت کانادا، در پایتخت کانادا هیچ کلیسای ایرانی وجود نداره. در پایتخت کانادا حتی یک کلیسای ایرانی هم وجود نداره. تو شهرهای دیگه هم که وجود داره هیچ کلیسایی از خودشون ندارن. هیچ کلیسای ایرانیانی که ساخته باشن در کانادا وجود نداره. به خاطر اینکه همش جنگ میکنن با هم دیگه و با بقیه جنگ میکنن. خدا گفته حالا که جنگ میکنه، حالا که خون روی دستای شما هست، حالا که شما خیلی به خون عقیده دارید، پس بنابراین نمیتونید که یک کلیسا از خودتون داشته باشید. حالا میگن چی شد؟ چرا اگه مردم میموندن اینجا ما اینقدر پر داشته باشیم؟ تقصیر خودته عزیز خداوند. این بلنگو رو درستش بکنم. بلنگو یادم رفته بود بلنگو رو بگذارم جلو دستم. تقصیر خودته عزیز خداوند. اگر اینقدر جنگ نمی‌کردی، اینقدر به خونریزی عقیده نداشتی، الان یک کلیسای بزرگ داشتی. وقتی می‌بینی مردم میان و میرن، دلیل داره. دلیلش هم اینه که به خونریزی و تیراندازی و جنگ عقیده داری. باور کردی که باید بقیه رو بزنی. برای خدا میگه چون خون در دستهای شما وجود داره، نمیتونی یک کلیسا از خودتون داشته باشی در هیچ جای کانادا. But Jerusalem was isolated and served as a capital of the United Kingdom for only 2 generations, which was David and Solomon. David conquered Jerusalem and put the capital of Jerusalem in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. And Solomon replaced his father and built the temple. And after Solomon, they divided. Division happened. But David built the first temple with such details that I don't want to explain the details. I don't need to explain details. Okay, so Hezekiah explained the city and initiated major building project. And under him, the city stretched and became the zenith of its development in the first temple period. David built a temple, but he couldn't build the house of God because he was fighting all the time. In 586 BCE, before Christ, the city was captured by Babylonians. At the order of King Nebuchadnezzar, Jerusalem was destroyed, captured by Babylonian and destroyed. The temple was razed. Okay. Temple was destroyed as well as the city. The city and the temple was destroyed. And the people were taken into exile. They captured the people and they enslaved them and put them in Babylonian. First one, destroyed, and all the Jews perished, and most of them captured by Babylonians. That was the first destruction of house of God. After Solomon built with such a detail that I don't want to explain the details. The Jews, after first exile from Egypt, they went to enter the promised land. But all of the first generation died when they are wandering in the desert. First generation dies. If you want to make somebody turn, remember, first generation died in the desert. Remember, and never reached the destination. The first generation never reached the destination. That's why بار کج هیچ وقت به منزل نمیرسه. اگر با ماشین کج رانندگی بکنی هیچ وقت به خونه نمیرسی. Okay. Jews, after first exile from Egypt, they entered the desert, and first generation all died. But after second exile, when they captured and exiled to Babel, they enter Jerusalem. They exit from exile. And not all of them. A few people returned to Jerusalem. After second exile, only a few people returned. And somebody give them good news. Oh, no, it's temporary. We are in the exile for a short period of time. But God told them, don't listen to lies. You will be in exile for at least 70 years. Live your life, have children in the exile, because you are not going to return to your homeland for such a long time. When they asked me, when do you want to return? I said, it's gonna be long time. Okay, the second temple built by Jews again. After the first destruction, the second temple was built. The second temple was not only awe-inspiring because of its religious significance, but also for its physical dimension, its grandeur, and its beauty. It was so beautiful inside and out. Second house of God that Jews built, it was beautiful inside and out. And when Romans governor passed by that building, they would say, wow. Everybody look at the building, they say, wow. It was so beautiful inside and out. And that was the building that Jesus Christ with disciples passed by. And disciples said to Jesus, look at this building, it's so beautiful. And Jesus Christ answered, do you see that beautiful building? None of the stone remained. It will be destroyed. And exactly it happened. It destroyed. The second temple also, like the first one, destroyed. Plan B, like Plan A, destroyed. When they plan to harm, when they plan evil things. Sometimes when we want to do something, we say, okay, we do this, after this. If there is something wrong, we couldn't execute Plan A, we go to the Plan B. And plan B is like this. But plan A wasn't successful. Plan A was a failure. And then they go to plan B and they say, oh, we are in plan B now. Because plan A already failed. So we are in plan B. And plan B also failed. And second temple of Solomon, of course, it was not Solomon again. Because first one built by Solomon, only first one. The second one wasn't Solomon because it was built by somebody else. So we cannot name it Temple of Solomon. The second temple was destroyed as well after Jesus Christ, 70 AD, as Jesus Christ prophesied. But it was beautiful inside and out, although it was not original, although it was not like original, but it was beautiful inside and out. But second building replaced the first one. But again, plan B failed. After destruction of second building, although everybody prays for building another temple, still today, Jews and Christians pray for building a house of God, but it doesn't exist up to now. I don't know about the future, but we don't have any house of God, not in Jerusalem, not anywhere else. کلیسای ایرانی ساخته نشد، عزیز خداوند، ساخته نشده و فکر نمی کنم حالا هم ساخته بشه، چه وضعیت خوب باشه چه نباشه، کلیسای ایرانیان ساخته نشد. Okay. After destruction of second building, although everybody prays for it, but third one never exists. Since its destruction by the Romans, the 70 after Christ, the only available source of information about the temple have had some religious or political bias. What they say about the building is only personal opinion. هرچی راجع به ساختمون هایی که ساخته شده میگن نظرات شخصیه. هیچ قطعیتی نداره. هیچ اطمینانی راجع به این منابع اطلاعاتی نیست. نظرات شخصیه. Nowadays, some Iranian prays for building a church for Iranian. They pray and pray and pray, but they pray never get answered. We don't have any Iranian church up to now. That's for certain. I don't know about the future. But at this moment, we don't have any Iranian church. Although they pray for it. It never built. And it doesn't exist. نیست. کلیسا نیست. کلیسای ایرانیان وجود نداره. In order to meet Iranian needs, a plaza was built in Yonge Street, Toronto. In Toronto, in Yonge Street, Toronto, there was a plaza, Iranian plaza, in order to meet Iranian needs. But they couldn't build a church. Even they have an Iranian society, but there was a fight. Again, there was a fight inside of Iranian society. If one was a pilgrim coming to Jerusalem, one would probably first go to the bank to change money as the coins of the realms, because the money was different. Like today, every country have different kind of money. It was like before in Jerusalem. And nowadays, because leaders of the church wanted to welcome people, they started a business inside of the church to exchange or switch money. They switch. They say, we switch. They switch money. That's why the penny is out of circulation in Canada. We don't use penny anymore. That's for certain. Government announced that penny is out of circulation. But they switch money. They started a business inside of the church, and they put a table inside of the church like the time of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ went to the temple and overthrown the table of people who exchange money inside of the temple. And today is happening. They made the church, which would be house of prayer. They start a business inside of the church with the table. They exchange money. God intervened and forced the government of Canada to put penny out of circulation. There is no penny in Canada currency. It's out of circulation. So you can start a business inside of the church, but no use. Okay. Some churches even bring a system from Iran to the church to facilitate the process. But God destroyed all everything they taught. On the first encounter, normally people welcome by people. Some people welcome by single mother, or those who feel that God has a job for you. You get excited. They are such a good people. They welcome me. And they even declare that God has a job for me. You are excited, right? When somebody on the first day of the church, they said, oh, God has a job for you. Nobody can reject that. But when days pass by, you see the background also. You see the behavior, bad behavior also. And you think, oh, I made a mistake. They are not the good people. Second, temple of God has gate. Like every building has door, temple of God has gates. These gates led to tunnels built under the plaza that then emerged onto plaza itself. Today, there are underground tunnels all over Toronto. Two, you can travel from one space to another space in the downtown. It's all in downtown Toronto. There is a tunnel. Without going outside, without going to the street, you can travel from A to B. But they couldn't put that system into the church because there was a tunnel in Jerusalem. into plaza to welcome people. But they couldn't put that system into the church. Unfortunately, when you enter the church, most of the time, 99% of the time, you welcome very good, with big smile, with high five. But when they pass by, you realize that, oh, there is something behind that smile on the face. There is something behind that welcome, warm welcome. You realize the fakeness of that smile. Maybe they keep their smile on the face, but that smile is fake smile. Okay, so although it's impossible to recapture their experience, you cannot go back to that time of Jerusalem and relive that and recapture their experiences. But you have opportunity to visit Jerusalem and visit the site that still remains some sign of that city that you shouldn't be missed. If you want to better understand, it's better to visit Jerusalem. It helps you to understand. It is nice to visit Jerusalem one day. I want to end my sermon with this. In 70 AD, Second Temple destroyed and never built again. But we may sum it up by saying that no other city has ever endured such horror, and no generation in history has fathered such wickedness. In the end, they brought the whole Hebrew race into contempt in order to make their own impiety seems less outrageous in foreign eyes, and confessed the painful truth that they were slaves, the dregs of humanity. Humanity is failing since Adam and Eve. And even today, nobody accepts the mistakes that humanity did. Catholic Church had so many mistakes, and they don't want to accept their mistakes. And leader of the church making mistakes today, and they don't want to accept their mistakes. Me, I don't make any mistakes. That's why we are repeating our mistakes. There is a reason. If you want to correct the mistakes, you have to first admit that you are making mistakes. مردم ایران داد میزدن که دروغ پشت کارشونه. When you want to do something, you try to, try to cover it up. You do something wrong and say, I didn't do that. I'm not responsible for that. Because you don't want to accept the responsibility. If you believe in psychology itself says that accept 100% of responsibility what you did, and you don't want to accept responsibility. So that's why you are repeating your mistakes again and again and again and again. Okay, you can continue doing that. I have no objection, but know one thing. Know one thing, that I never ever accept you as someone who is a leader. I never can obey you when you're telling lies. Distance or not, I never accept you, because there is obvious reason that you are telling lies. I don't care if you think who you are. I don't care who you think you are. I don't care that. But it's obvious, it's clear that when you behave badly and you gossip, you cannot expect others to follow you. That's why, let me assure you that my rejection is forever. Peace of God be with you all.